Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation and recording for the part of the lesson that has us looking at Japanese culture. Before we get started, please let me encourage you to open up to today's lesson and to scroll down the correct section. And please remember that the readings that you're about to hear and see here do in fact coincide to questions that are presented on the doc that you must complete. Please remember that you can replay any part of this presentation for detailed clarity or repetition later on. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Japan. Here's an introduction. Geography. Honshu, Kyushu, Hokkaido, and Shikoku are Japan's four main islands. Apart from these four main islands, the country has over 4,000 small islands. More than 75% of these islands are covered with mountains, and the most famous mountain is Mount Fuji, which is a volcano and is considered to be sacred by many Japanese people. Over 1,000 earthquakes hit Japan each year. The country is located in an area where three tectonic plates meet, and these plates often move against each other. Japan has around 200 volcanoes, 60 of which are active. Now, when it comes to people and culture, Japanese people are famous for their hardworking attitude. From a young age, Japanese children are taught to obey their parents and superiors, and it is part of the Japanese culture to be polite to others. The people focus on what is best for their family and company and have less concern for their own individualistic needs. In terms of government, the head of state of Japan is Emperor Naruhito, and the emperors used to rule the country. But nowadays, they have no real power. The emperor symbolizes the country's culture and history. In terms of economy, after Japan lost the World War II, the economy of the country was badly hit and was devastated. Therefore, all Japanese people had to work very hard, again, to build up their country and its economy. Due to technological innovations, Japan became the second largest economy in the world. The country is famous for producing very high-quality electronics in particular. Let's proceed to the next section of the reading. Culture. Pachinko. Pachinko is a typical and popular slot machine game in Japan, and the game is so popular that it accounts for more than $250 billion in revenues per year. The game is basically a virtual pinball machine, where the players have to insert a little metal ball, and pachinko machines come in many different themes and varieties. The aim of the game is to capture as many balls as possible in the right spot. Gambling is not allowed in Japan, and for that reason, money cannot be won with the game. But instead, players can exchange balls for prizes such as gadgets and t-shirts. The game is part of Japanese culture and has been around for many decades. Work. Japanese people are very ordered and polite. This is also the case in terms of working environment. Almost all Japanese workers work about 2 hours per day overtime. Even though there's a law that states that overtime must be paid, it is still common practice for workers to work overtime without getting paid. They feel it is somehow expected of them and is part of their culture. There is unwritten rule stating that employees should not leave the office until the boss finishes his work for the day, and in many cases Japanese employees just fall asleep behind their desks even after normal working hours. Employees are expected to join their colleagues and superiors for dinner and drinks, and in Japan it is very normal to do what a superior needs or asks without asking any questions. Because of this working culture, nearly 10,000 deaths from overwork occur each year, and there is even a word for it, karoshi. Geishas. Geishas are professional hostesses who entertain guests during special occasions. They entertain their guests with various traditional Japanese arts, and they are trained not only in dancing and singing, but also in the way that they communicate. Geishas are hired to make guests feel comfortable with drinking games and conversation. Manga. Comic books are very popular in Japan. They are called manga, and the drawing style in manga books is often referred to as manga style. These comic books can be found in pretty much everywhere in Japan. Many people read these on trains or on buses, and manga books are sold in bookstores and in special manga stores that can be found all over the country. There are many different genres of manga for all kinds of people. Capsule hotels. Capsule hotels are a typical Japanese style of accommodation for businessmen and low-budget travelers, but the accommodation is cheap and offers only basic facilities. Most guests are Japanese businessmen who miss the last train home or just need a simple place to sleep for the night. Now, normally a capsule is only 6 feet long and 4 feet wide. There is just enough room for a guest to sleep. Most capsules offer basic facilities such as a small TV, Wi-Fi, and an alarm clock. The door of the capsule has a little curtain to ensure privacy, but that's basically it. Let's proceed to the next part of the reading. Everyday life. At school. High school in Japan is very different from schools in the West. Most Japanese kids have to go to school on Saturday as well, with Sunday being the only day off. Uniforms are often compulsory, and this is the only thing that Japanese students may wear. Jewelry and hats are not allowed, and the students are not even permitted to dye their hair in most cases. Kotatsu. Most houses in Japan do not have central heating. People have portable stoves that act as main sources of heat. A kotatsu is another popular source of heat in Japanese homes. It is a little heater that is located under a table in the main room of the house. A quilt is placed over the table, and family members sit around the table to relax or maybe even eat a meal. Tatami. Houses in Japan greatly differ from houses in the West. Inside the house, shoes cannot be worn in order to keep the floor clean, and most houses have at least one room that is designed for traditional Japanese style with a tatami floor. Every entrance of a Japanese house has a genkan, which is a small area where people can take off and store their shoes. Inside the house, people usually wear just slippers. Furo. A furo, which is a Japanese bath, is very popular in the country. Many people use a furo to wash, relax, and release stress. This bathtub is smaller than the ones in the West, but interestingly enough, Japanese people wash themselves before going into the bath and do not wash themselves inside it. They do this to keep the water clean for others who take a bath later. Napping. Many Japanese people are able to take a short nap pretty much anywhere, and in most Western countries, you will not see people sleeping in public areas except on long train or bus journeys. But in Japan, however, people take a nap in restaurants, libraries, or even behind their desk at work, as we previously stated. Kimono. A kimono is a traditional dress of Japan. It reaches from the shoulders down to the heels and is normally made of silk. The dress is tied with a wide belt called an obi, and you will not see many people wearing a kimono on the streets of Japan. They are usually worn only by special occasions. A kimono might seem like a simple dressing gown, but it is very difficult and time-consuming to put on. Let's proceed to the next part of the reading and talk about Shintoism. Shintoism is a very old Japanese religion, which means the way of the gods. The religion was founded around 3,000 years ago and is still practiced today by many Japanese people. The followers of Shintoism greatly value nature and believe the natural world has spiritual powers. These spiritual powers are called kami and live in animals, stones, plants, and people. Now, followers of Shintoism worship in temples called shrines, and they're usually located in beautiful natural areas. In the center of the shrine, there's an inner hall which is only entered by Shinto priests, and they believe that the kami is present in these places. A Shinto priest can either be a male or a female, and when people enter a shrine, they wash their hands and rinse their mouths, and this is done as the Japanese believe that purity is very important. The religious ceremonies start with the bell, and after that, rice and money are offered to the kami. After this takes place, the worshipper bows 2 times, claps to welcome the kami, and then bows again. At the entrance of the shrine, there is a special archway called a torii. According to Shintoism, the torii divides the sacred spirits in the shrine from the outside world, and in Japan, there are more than 80,000 shrines, and each one of them has a yearly ceremony where people pay their respects to the kami. Japanese people also worship at home and at work, and they do this with prayers and simple offerings such as tea and rice, and the offerings are usually placed on a specific shelf, which is called a god shelf. Now, most of the time, the people pray to their family ancestors, and in Shintoism, there are many different kamis. Amaterasu is the most important goddess of the sun, and the people believe that she is the ancestor of the ancient emperors of Japan. The goddess has a shrine that is considered to be the most important shrine in all of Japan. And Inari, the rice producer, is another important god, and this god is believed to be both male and female. Many people in Japan practice both Shintoism as well, as Buddhism, both religions, have many things in common. Now let's proceed to the final part of the reading here, and talk about Japanese food. Rice and noodles are 2 primary ingredients of Japanese cuisine. The rice can be either steamed or boiled and is served with practically every meal. Noodles are prepared in many different varieties. Soy sauce and other soybean products are other important ingredients in Japanese dishes. The use of fish and seafood in Japanese dishes, on the other hand, is probably the most famous aspect of Japanese cuisine. Japanese dishes are well known for their fresh ingredients, and most Japanese people use fresh and seasonal ingredients for their meals. Another important and unique aspect of Japanese cuisine is the arrangement of the food to make dishes look artistic and beautiful. Because of the use of vegetables and fresh seafood in many meals, Japanese people live long lives and have relatively low rates of heart disease when compared to other countries. Real quickly, here are a few Japanese delicacies and dishes that you might have heard of. Sushi is probably Japan's most famous dish. It consists of vinegar rice with fish and seafood and other ingredients. Okonomiyaki is a special Japanese pancake that is made from seafood, vegetables, and meat. These ingredients are mixed together and grilled. Sashimi is raw fish with any without any other ingredients. Usually, sashimi is eaten with soy sauce and wasabi. Udon are a kind of noodles that are quite thick, and udon is often prepared as hot noodle soup without many other ingredients. Ramen is another style of noodles and originally comes from China. Ramen is served with various kinds of toppings too. Miso soup is a traditional Japanese soup, and the soup consists of seafood-based stock called dashi mixed with miso paste. Most Japanese meals are served with miso soup. Shabu shabu is a dish that consists of sliced beef that is quickly boiled in water and then dipped in a sauce. Takoyaki is a ball-shaped Japanese snack, and they are made of wheat flour-based batter and prepared in takoyaki pan. The snack is filled with octopus, tempura scraps, pickled ginger, and green onions. And then there's tempura, which is a Japanese dish prepared with vegetables and or seafood in a crisp batter. So as you guys can see, there's a lot to know about Japanese culture and tradition, but hopefully you now have a better understanding about this unique and refined country. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck with completing the rest of the lesson. And